I'm an estate agency boss. I've got a valuer that's not performing. Dino, talk to me. How do I sort them out?
So, how do we sort them out? Well, we've got to work with them, haven't we? You know, bosses have got to work with these people. You know, you've got to understand what part... You will gauge a valuer's success or failure at a high level on the number of instructions that come through. And it's as straightforward as that. But if that's all you gauged it on, you know, so I said, well, you're not winning me enough business. You know, well, that's quite a bland way to look at it. You've got to understand the flow and the process. What part of the process are they missing? What part of the process are they struggling with? As soon as you unravel that, you know where you're at.
Dean, you've been a trainer for a big nationwide firm of estate agents and valuers. Where do most valuers go wrong, and what can we do to put them right?
I think the first key thing that I've seen on my travels is lack of preparation. They don't do the pre-work. And I think if you do the pre-work, as soon as you get in the front door, okay, you're immediately demonstrating whether you care or not is irrelevant. The client needs to believe you're interested in them and their position and helping them move.
So it's not just a case of getting a free valuation pack, chucking in a few comparables that are about right, and off we go.
No, I mean, that's part of it. I mean, you want to perhaps take a bit more care and attention over this sort of stuff, but it's about the communication. You know, when you look at the stereotypical market appraisal or valuation that comes in, it's invariably not the valuer that takes that first call. It's going to be the frontline negotiator, administrator, whoever it might be.
How often do bosses go out with their valuers?
I would say, I won't say never.
I think it's very
rare.
But
I would say it's pretty damn close to never.
Do you think that is a big win that bosses could do to actually observe?
I think so, yes, but it all depends on the attitude of the boss, you know, and what the valuer's belief is as to why the boss is going out there. Okay. Is the valuer's belief that the boss is coming out there to help me, or is the valuer's belief that the boss is coming out there to see where I'm going wrong so they can sack me?
So I think it's a huge thing that a boss goes out with their valuer. What advice would you have to that valuer and that boss to ensure that meeting isn't a fearful meeting? Because otherwise the valuer's not going to be on top form because they're worried about their job.
It all comes back down to how we set the scene. You know, we're in the arena of coaching here, one-on-one coaching. And the boss has got to make sure that they've got a good relationship with their valuer to say, look, Chris, you know, you've had some great times here. Now we seem to be in a bit of a rut here. You know, what's your understanding? This is my understanding. What I want to be able to do, and I'm not saying I get it right all the time, but if I can come out with you and observe you and feed back to you, then, you know, I'm confident we can start to understand where the challenges are and move on. The problem with a lot of bosses and other members of the team, when they go out with somebody, if they spot the opportunity, because they want the business, they suddenly jump in. And we have to just hold our tongue, hold our breath, okay? Now, if that means you might lose that piece of business, now again, easy for me to say it, because business is business and we want to be earning a fee, but you might do more harm by jumping in because you're actually undermining the professionalism and impression and reputation of your valuer. So you have to use it as I'm a fly on the wall to then feed back.
Have you ever been out with valuers yourself in your guise as a trainer?
Yeah, number of times.
Have you got any stories? Don't mention any names.
No.
Basically, you had a great valuer that was underperforming, not firing on all cylinders, who through your help is flying.
Yeah, there was a young lady in the home counties. She had come from a corporate agency background. Now, the initial impression is when you come from a corporate agency background, it's all system and process and so on and so forth. But in this particular lady's situation, it clearly didn't seem to be the way. I think there was such a fear of having to hit the numbers that it clouded any form of proactive preparation and attention to detail.
So what did you do?
So I you know, as we were talking about with the negotiators earlier, I went and had the time with them. You know, you can talk on the phone and you can bounce a few ideas off. I understood from the boss, from the particular owner of this business, what their performance had been to date, and it was clearly evident that the performance hadn't been fantastic from when they started. Yet it seemed to be great there, but how was it great? So I went and had the day with this lady. Literally, she got managed to get 2 or 3 market appraisals in on the day. I actually spoke to her a couple of days before to say, right, on what preparation have you done? And it was stereotypically, I've done a quick right move best price guide, fine, and I've got a lecture about how wonderful we are, and words to that effect, fantastic. What levels of conversation have you had with the owner prior to you going in there? Eh? So this appraisal had been booked by another member of the team. The first interaction that this member of staff this lady was going to be having with this client was when she walked in the front door. So it was about the building blocks of building the relationship. And then we went out and I observed, and even as a trainer, when you're there to coach and observe, you spot the opportunity. The estate agent in you comes out. You want to say something, but you don't. But the fact was, because we'd had the conversations and one of those 3 appraisals, the timing was right to have the call, actually, the intervention of me talking to her, and I'm not saying I won her the business because ultimately it came down to her to do it, because she changed her tack on certainly one of those appraisals because it was the time to do so, she won that piece of business.
Do you think probably sometimes valuers are fearful of their boss, so by bringing the boss out, it could almost be detrimental? And by getting almost a third party in, i.e. yourself, who is a trainer, but not the person that pays their wages, the valuer will be in a better frame of mind to accept that advice.
It's an independent party. Yes, of course, they're getting me in for a day, but my goal is not there to lambast the valuer. It's to prove my worth as a trainer, to spot where the pros and cons are in that valuer's approach, develop them, whether you can do that instantly or that may be some further conversations over the phone, so that they turn the corner, so it's seen as that worthwhile investment.
What are you going to cost me? 2-3 grand a day to come to the office?
No.
What are you going to charge me then?
No. Charge you £500.
To basically sort my valuer or sort my neg out?
Yeah.
It's not bad, mate.
Yeah. Because I think...
how often have you done this? You must have done it many times.
I've done it
being head of training for marketing.
Done it many times, head of training, and clearly was paid a salary for doing that. So it didn't actually cost the franchisee any more. But you do that a lot of times.
And you genuinely believe you can make a difference? I mean, £500 is a fifth of a fee.
Exactly. My business. I'm about building my business and working with like-minded agents. Okay, you start to try and rape them in terms of a daily fee. You give people a reason not to do anything. Could I probably command more? Maybe I could. But for me, it's about looking at the long-term gain to work with these agents and have a client bank that want to tap into me on a regular basis because it makes sense to do so. Financially, it works for them. It works for me.
Well, surely you're going to get a better return from one-to-one training than sending Floss off to a training day.
Yeah, I mean, and don't get me wrong. Open courses, and I've run many open courses in my time working with Martin & Co. and other agencies in the past, and they're fantastic in terms of the different dynamics in the room. And even I pick up golden nuggets of bits and pieces because they're out frontline doing it. But it is an audience. Depending on the size of the group, so there comes a pinch point.
And you can hide.
And you can hide, and you can be quiet. And I've always prided myself on my experience in training. And I'm coming into nearly my 20th year in training of estate agents. And being an estate agent as well. In the fact that if you do see the quieter person, how can I get them to talk more?
Dean, it almost seems that you're not necessarily an estate agency trainer, more of an estate agency coach. More of a one-to-one basis. What do you think to that statement?
The more you say it, and immediately when you say it, that I start to think, Joe, I think you could be right there. I love running open courses and having a good group of people and the interaction, so on and so forth. But equally, I'm as comfortable spending the day with an agent, working with that agent from when the doors open to when the doors close. I know that when you go on an open course, they'll kick off at 10 and finish at 4 and all this sort of stuff. And I've run many courses like that, and they certainly have their place and they provide great value. But if as an estate agency coach on a one-on-one basis you turned up at 10 and left at 4, you're treating it on a bit of a part-time basis. I do see that real opportunity there of saying, look, I'll come in, I'll work with that individual for the day. I will be the positive on their shoulder.
I've got one day, £500.
Yeah.
Plus travel?
No.
It's not bad, mate.
No.
I think you're underselling yourself.
And maybe I am. But from my perspective, I want to build a business too.
Interesting. We all have to start somewhere, don't we?
We've all got to start somewhere. I've
get in while you can at this price. I think
that's as demand grows, therefore so will the remuneration, I'm sure. But while if I can make it affordable for agents,
because let's be honest, let's be honest, most estate agents are not very good when it comes to sending people on training because they don't think it works. But at least you actually go into the office, you can get buy-in from the boss, you can get buy-in from the neg and the valuer. You're on a win-win situation, aren't you?
Absolutely. You spend the day with the individual, you talk to the boss, they'll get a good comprehensive report at the end of it detailing my day with them and my views and opinions on it and where I think the way forward.
You can go in and problem solve, but can you also go in and actually look at how the office runs and give advice on what you would do differently?
Absolutely. I would never turn around to you would never in a month of Sundays turn around to an estate agency boss and say you're doing it all wrong. You've always got to present these messages in a positive. So it's about
you did an awful lot of this in the Martin & Co. and Property Franchise Group network.
Yeah. Absolutely, and when you looked at my time there, when we were launching new franchisees, and the business development managers did play an integral part in that as well. But from the classroom element, they it was about embedding into them, core system and process to make sure the efficiencies of the office ran smoothly.
Because again, one of the biggest fears of estate agency bosses is that they fear that everything's out of control. You could probably give that control back to them by making sure that the staff know what they're doing and almost opening their eyes as well.
Staff know what they're doing. System is in place, whether it's the agency software, and I think a good estate agency boss should be able to get a good, clear picture of how their business is doing based on what's happening within the software. And then that will breed it from there.
Dean?